China may have just done the unthinkable, folks. We all know, well, I guess most of this community is now aware that our economy isn't doing as well as we're being told. There are more people using their credit cards. Like, we just hit a new record, right? The financial freedom that we once enjoyed is gone, and it's nowhere to be found. Still, the narrative is that things are getting better and that we should prepare for good times. But you know what? It looks like China's seeing something similar.
China's consumer prices slid into deflationary territory in July. And as economic woes continue to cloud hopes of a recovery, President Joe Biden is calling out the world's second largest economy. Biden said China's economy is in trouble and fears the country is, quote, a ticking time bomb over its slowing growth and high unemployment rate. Now, that's according to a pool report of the Thursday fundraiser that took place. He went on to say they've got some problems, and that's not good because when bad folks have problems, they do bad things. Eric Nelson is still here with us. Okay, so a bit to unpack there, Eric, and perhaps we start with the data and what the data has been telling us from your perspective out of China thus far.
Well, it's not been great, Brad. I have to be honest. What's shocking to me about this whole thing, because you look at the activity data, you look at the credit data just this morning, the overall, I'd say, I'll call it the vibes from China's economy are not good. So I'd say what's concerning here is Beijing is certainly not taking the action it needs to, given the weak demand picture, the weak activity picture. And that's really concerning because you have a reopening economy here. We thought this was going to be the big growth story of 2023, and it hasn't come to fruition. If China doesn't do anything, the risk is you have a downward spiral here in activity.
So yeah, we were all expecting a huge comeback. I mean, their economy was supposed to skyrocket because they were basically reopening to the world, but expectations, well, they weren't met at all. But here's a real concerning part of this whole thing. Not that our government continues to poke at China, even though, yeah, that's also a worry for some of us, But even above that, a lot of economists from China, they've talked about their economy and how they seem to be going towards deflation.
While the rest of the world grapples with inflation, China appears to be sliding into deflation. Consumer prices fell in July. Factory gate prices also extended declines last month as the world's second largest economy struggled to revive demand. The National Bureau of Statistics said Wednesday that the consumer price index dropped 0.3% year-on-year in July. It was the first decline since February 2 years ago. The Producer Price Index also fell for a 10th consecutive month, down 4.4% and faster than forecast. Markets are worried China has entered an era of much slower economic growth similar to Japan's lost decades. That saw consumer prices and wages stagnate for a generation. China's post-health crisis recovery has slowed after a quick start in the first quarter. Demand at home and abroad weakened and policies to support the economy failed to shore up activity. The data comes a day after the trade figures showed exports and imports both slumped in July. For now, authorities are downplaying concerns about deflation. Last month, the central bank said there will be no deflationary risks in China in the second half of the year, though it did say the economy needs time to return to normal after the health crisis. Now there is pressure on Beijing to release more direct policy stimulus as the stock market is mostly underwhelmed by the lack of firm action.
Something that, well, their government doesn't like. You know what's happening over there? China has effectively banned commentary on their economy, most especially if you use the term deflation. Wow. What are they trying to hide over there? So they're now trying to censor economists from reporting what they think and what they know is true. That's how it is, right? The last time that this happened for them was back in 2016, if I'm not mistaken, right? They went through devaluation and capital flight that cleaned up over $1 trillion in Chinese reserves. It was right at the time that the Wall Street Journal said that censorship was stepped up because they only wanted positivity in the news. Even though, let's face it, most of it was probably fake. Hey, we got more in common with the Chinese than we thought, right? And since we're at a quick pause here, please consider subscribing to the channel and don't forget to smash that like button, all right? Appreciate it. But back to the topic at hand. So count them, 7 well-regarded economists from their country told the Financial Times that their employers advise them that there are some terms that are off limits because I don't know, I guess providing people with the truth actually leads to more problems for them as demand and the public's trust continues to drop. So now this is pretty amazing. So now the China Securities and Regulatory Commission, they want to have them interpret the bad news in a positive light. Talk about a challenge. But you got to think, is this what's next for us as well? Like, I know that a lot of my videos have been suppressed because I'm a warrior of the truth. I know that you guys deserve to know exactly what's really happening. And I love that you guys, you help me to spread the word by liking and sharing these videos. And I want you guys to please know that I do really appreciate it. But it's not about me. It's about letting people know about the reality of our situation. Now, my fear is that there is going to come a time, and I'm not exactly sure when, but there will probably come a time when you and I will be told that we can't talk about the economy in public, that creators like me can't cover specific topics because it's going to create worry for the American people. Do you guys think that's possible? Because the comment section always has the truth coming from you guys. Now, imagine having that taken away. This would affect all of us because, that would just impede our First Amendment. But let's be real, guys. What's the message that's coming from the White House?
Economics. We know the polls show that people are pretty sour, at least half American people are sour on the economy. Isn't that just dangerous getting closer to the election if things take a downturn? If, as the CBO predicts, unemployment will get closer to 4.7% by election day, that you've got a narrative now of Bidenomics and things going in a certain way, but that can quickly turn in the opposite direction. Why literally fuse the president's name with the economics that Americans aren't very happy with?
Well, here's the thing. Bidenomics is indeed working when we say that you look at the data, right? Cost is going down, right? We think about inflation. When you think about wages going up, that is Bidenomics. Look.
I mean, do you guys agree with her? This is kind of like what's happening in China, right? The people know that times are tough, but you're not going to have the freedom to talk about it because they've outright banned economists from talking about it. We haven't reached that point yet, but who's telling us that we're not headed in that same direction, right? But nah, let's not think that way, right? There's no way they can tell us good news while we struggle with our expenses.
75% of Americans believe the economy is in poor condition. And maybe that's because, again, even though inflation rates have come down, they are still paying more. 63% of people in this poll disapprove of how President Biden is handling the economy. What do you say, Secretary Yellen, to the clear majority of Americans who simply do not believe that the administration is helping them?
Well, Americans know best, I think, about their own personal finances. And it is important to recognize that when they're asked, how are they personally doing, over 70% of Americans say that they're very comfortable with their financial situation. So they seem to perceive the economy as a whole as doing less well than they are personally. But most Americans feel good about their own economic situation.
70% of Americans are comfortable with their financial situation? Really? Wow. I take it back then. I guess they are just going to outright lie to us. But what are you guys' thoughts on all this? Should we prepare to be censored by the federal government from this point forward because China's doing it? Or is the economy really starting to boom now? Let me know in the comments what you guys think, all right? And before I go, I just want to thank you guys so much for spending your time with me. Appreciate the likes. Thanks for subscribing to the channel. And I'm going to catch y'all on the next one.